When I was a kid, we called them goodies and baddies. And when a baddie became a goodie, or heaven forfend, a goodie became a baddie, it was kind of a big deal. Doesn't feel like that so much anymore because sort of the goodies get treated like baddies sometimes, the baddies get treated like goodies, but a change of alignment still is quite a special occasion because it doesn't happen very often, except last night, where it happened quite a bit. As we drive away from Backlash, keep your hand near the indicator because there's quite a few turns coming. This is Raw Graded. Randall Keith starts us off. He thanks Edge for helping him reignite the Legend Killer and addresses Edge's torn triceps, saying that they'll meet each other down the road in maybe 9 years' time. Boos from the crowd to this, and it brings out Christian, who tells Randy Orton that Edge will write the end of his story on his own terms. And Orton seems to think this is Christian spoiling for a fight. Christian, another guy who didn't end the way that he wanted to. Christian denies this, says he doesn't want to get in the ring ever again, but Orton throws down the challenge to an unsanctioned match for Raw tonight. Orton leaves to give Christian some time to think about it, or, as Orton says, prove what we all know, that you're a coward. Christian thinks on it. The commentators talk about about Christian's health and his medical conditions over the years, and you can see all this going through Christian's head. A- to open Raw this week. Whilst I thought it lacked a touch of that chemistry, that magic that Edge and Orton had, I still thought it was a really great way to start Raw, and I still really enjoyed the playoff these two had, and it gives us a really cool thread to go through Monday Night Raw with. Kevin Owens and Angel Garza is our first in-ring action of the night. There is tension in the Zelina Vega camp as Garza and Andrade clearly not very happy with one another. As the Owens and Garza match starts, Andrade's music hits and out he comes to just walk around ringside, makes a big song and dance about his arrival. Garza gets knocked outside at one point, and this ends up being a scuffle between Andrade and Garza. Vega splits it up before storming off, leaving them to it. The match itself, around all of this drama, is short and sharp between these two. Andrade gets onto the apron to help Angel Garza at one point, ends up hindering him as it leads to Garza falling into a stunner from Kevin Owens and picking up the win. After the match, we have Garza and Andrade squabbling in the ring again. Vega comes back down to read them both the riot act and tells them that they need to stand together. And she leads them back up the ramp like naughty school kids. It's a B-. The match itself was good. It was quick and it was pacey. Not a whole lot to it. The story around it, I'm really enjoying at the moment. I do think it's leading to Garza and Andrade becoming a tag team, a more formidable tag team. Obviously they're a team at the moment, but like a stronger effort, concerted effort to become tag team champions maybe. MVP and Lashley are out for a little chat about Backlash, and in particular Lana. MVP just going to town verbally on Lana. This brings out Lana, and her and MVP are going back and forth. Lana calls MVP a snack. MVP calls Lana a thought. So apparently we're using TikTok language now. Lashley takes MVP's side and says that Lana stuck her nose in the wrong place last night, saying she had one order and that was to stay backstage. She didn't do it. Lashley accuses Lana of using her and putting their personal life and their very personal life all over social media for likes. Lana says that if she wanted to use Lashley to get on, she'd have slept with somebody with a higher standing, like Drew McIntyre. Lashley drops the killer blow here by saying, "I want a divorce," and then leaves the ring. Lana's in the ring looking absolutely devastated, and the crowd are chanting Jerry because it's the 90s. I'm giving this whole bit a C+. It was all right. It was fine. Nothing terrible about it. It was just another segment. Very talky segment we got through. It was fine. We get a recap of whatever it was that Street Profits and Viking Raiders did at Backlash. They're talking backstage about becoming the Viking Profits, and they're considering merchandise options when they talk about maybe having a movie as well, making movies together and all this. Out comes Akira Tozawa with his ninjas and the big 7-foot ninja that we saw at Backlash as well. And Akira Tozawa simply says, sequel. There is a plan, though. The Viking Prophets have a plan. And when we come back from break, we've got ourselves an 8-man tag team match. It's Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, Eric and Ivar versus Tozawa and 3 other ninjas, with the big ninja outside the ring. And he is a big ninja because he even stood up like he's roughly the same size as the ring. He's massive. The selling point of this match was it was the Viking Prophets getting along. We see Ivar and Dawkins hitting double team move. We see Ford and Ivar hitting double team moves, and they finished it all with Ford and Ivar coming off respective ropes, hitting half of a 4-corner massacre. Hello, Ready to Rumble fans, and getting the win from there. They look as if they're celebrating the win. Then Tozawa brings in the big 7-foot ninja. The Viking Prophets huddle. They scream, "We want the smoke," and that brings out the Big Show, because that's how that works. Big Show comes out, helps them fight away all the ninjas, and then Tozawa and the big ninja make their leave before Big Show gets his hands on them. So Big Show's a good guy now. If you're keeping track of the sheer amount of turns Big Show has had. Last time we saw him, he was trying to squash Drew McIntyre. He's all right now. He's our friend now. He's a goodie now. That's a turn that happened. Giving this whole segment a B-. It was good fun. Not much to write home about match-wise, but the story it told was good here, and it's always nice to see the Big Show in it. It's always nice. Seth Rollins is out for a sermon. He's heard that Dominic Mysterio has taken him up on his offer to come to Raw tonight. Rey Mysterio appears on the big screen from his home and says that Dominic went before Rey could stop him, and he warns Seth Rollins not to touch him or he will end him. Rollins has no intentions on hurting Dominic Mysterio because he wants Dominic to stand by his side and make the right decision for the greater good. The greater good. Of course, if Seth Rollins decides that Dominic isn't going to play along, then unfortunately Dominic will have to become a sacrifice. So as this speech is going on, Dominic Mysterio appears in the ring and attacks Seth Rollins from behind and hoists him into the steps. Murphy and Theory charge to the ring to try and grab Dominic, but in basically the wrestling equivalent of Catch the Pigeon, they simply can't get their hands on him, and he runs rings round them and pegs it away. Giving this a B+, great back and forth between Seth and Rey Mysterio, and Dominic looked good out there as well. You know, he didn't do a whole lot, but looked good out there. It was a good segment. Later on tonight, we've got Bobby Lashley and MVP versus R-Truth and Drew McIntyre, and Lashley and MVP run into R-Truth backstage. They look like they're going to give him a shoo-in until Drew McIntyre turns up, and Lashley challenges both R-Truth and Drew to put their belts on the line in their tag match later on. R-Truth gets excited and accepts on Drew's behalf, and Drew is furious with Truth. But Truth's over the moon. He's excited about being the next Becky 2 belts. We dip back into these guys as the show goes on. Liv Morgan and Natalya team up to face the Iconics in the next match. Looks like Morgan's going to start, but Natalya tags herself in and says, I've got this, and then she hasn't got this. She gets battered by the Iconics for the longest time. Morgan manages to make a hot tag, lights the place up. Natalya tries to get involved to stop a pin, and she ends up getting hoyed out of the ring, and then Morgan eats the fall from grace for the 1, 2, 3. After the match, Billie Kay and Peyton Royce throw down the challenge to Sasha Banks and Bayley for a Women's Tag Team Championship match here on Raw. Nothing happens. So they go, okay, well, it's fine, because we know someone that knows 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 someone that can make that match happen next week. So that's the thing. This was a C, fine, nothing terrible, nothing outstanding here. The Natalya thing is quite an interesting element to it, how Natalya tagged herself in and then just really does nothing in the match of any significance. There's a nice story there. And it continues to build the Iconics, keeps them in the mix for the tag titles. Backstage, Natalya is chewing out Liv Morgan for her performance in the tag team match, saying that she lacks drive and respect, and Morgan storms off. Natalya is furious. Nobody respects her. She keeps being humiliated. And here comes Lana. Similar complaints, saying that she's sick of working hard to help people and then getting humiliated. Maybe we see a little team forming here, maybe. Natalya's a heel now, by the way. Just in case you missed that, she's a baddie now, and she's a disgruntled veteran baddie, the best kind. After counsel from the Big Show, Christian makes his decision, and whilst his in-ring career is done and he's got nothing to prove, he won't stand for being disrespected by Randy Orton. So he accepts the challenge for the main event tonight. Gets a lovely reaction from the crowd. We have our main event. Unsanctioned match between Randy Orton and Christian. Proper rolling back the years. Charlotte and Ric Flair are chilling backstage. Rick is asking Charlotte what's next in her career. Charlotte's been quite cagey about it. And that is it. I can't think of any other reason why Ric Flair would turn up other than just to make small talk with his daughter. We then get a US Championship match, Apollo Crews putting it on the line against Shelton Benjamin. Just before this match, MVP approached Apollo Crews and offered his managerial services, to which Apollo Crews very politely declined. MVP warned him that the only way he's going to keep the US title is with MVP in his corner. Shelton Benjamin does a shot-in-shot interview as he's making his way out to the ring for the match, where he says he's going to wish that he'd accepted the offer from MVP if this match doesn't go his way, or something like that. Really short match with these guys, short and very aggressive. Shelton Benjamin hits a beauty of a German suplex near the start of this match. He goes for a roll-up, putting his feet on the ropes and gets a near fall. He's complaining to the referee, which allows Apollo Crews to get a schoolboy roll-up and grab the ropes himself and get the cheeky win. I see you, Apollo Crews, getting as good as you get. I like that little touch. That was good. It was a C+, this one. There was nothing wrong with it. There was just not much to review in it. I enjoyed some of the story elements, and I enjoyed how Apollo Crews was quite happy to cheat if he was cheated at. That's a nice little wrinkle to the Apollo Crews character. They continue this story on WWE's YouTube channel with a network exclusive, which features MVP making an offer to Shelton Benjamin. Hey, anything that puts Shelton Benjamin on the screen on a regular basis, I'm absolutely fine with. And I know you might think it's harsh, I'm giving Apollo Crews and Shelton Benjamin a C+. It's because I know deep down that if these two guys get into the rigors of a feud, we're going to get some B+, A- matches if they get time. And I'm building to them, man. I'm building to them. Truth gets approached by Akira Tozawa and the Ninjas backstage. It looks like he's going to defend his 24/7, 7-Eleven, yada 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 title, but then Drew McIntyre turns up and they all bugger off. Drew is furious with Truth for what he has done, putting those titles on the line in their match tonight, but R-Truth promises he will get it sorted. We come back a little later on to find out that R-Truth has got it sorted. He's been to the powers that be and said that only the WWE title will be on the line now. Oh, Truth, you scallywag. Big Show's backstage with the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders as they're mulling over what the next step of their anything you can do, we can do better challenge should be. Big Show suggests, well, how about next week? Here's a wild idea. What do you have a wrestling match? So next week, we're getting a tag title match between the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. They all talk about catchphrases and dance to end the segment. It's adorable. And then we've got the WWE title on the line in a tag team encounter. Drew and R-Truth teaming up against Bobby Lashley and MVP. Drew is on fire to start this match, going for the Claymore on MVP to get this done nice and quick, and then R-Truth tags himself in and then proceeds to get battered for ages. R-Truth very much on the defense for so much of this match until he hits a spinning wheel kick on MVP, gets the hot tag to Drew, who just lights the place up. From here we see the fight just descend into chaos. R-Truth outside the ring is in the crosshairs of a Bobby Lashley spear into the steps, but Truth manages to drop toe hold Lashley into the steps. Back in the ring, we see Drew crack a claymore, clack a claymore, Granville fetch a cloth, hit a claymore on MVP, and then tags in R-Truth, you know, bygones be bygones and all that. And R-Truth hits a splash on MVP to get the win, and R-Truth and Drew McIntyre successfully defend Drew's WWE title. This was a fun match with some new players involved. I like Drew and R-Truth and the way they played off each other in this one, and I enjoyed the way this built throughout the night. Lashley not being involved in the finish leads me to think that we're getting another Lasher-Drew match probably in Extreme Rules, because he was very much kept strong by being nowhere near the finish of this. After Ric Flair fails to talk Christian out of the unsanctioned match against Randy Orton, we have the Women's Tag Team Champions make their way to the ring. Bayley and Sasha Banks out there celebrating not just their win at Backlash, but Bayley's birthday. Happy birthday for yesterday, Pamela. They don't get far into their pomp before they're interrupted by the Iconics, who challenge them for a tag title match and make fun of the meltdown they supposedly had at WrestleMania, the year they lost the titles. And this leads to Sasha Banks getting in the face of Peyton Royce, and Peyton giving quite the slap to the mush of Sasha. And Bayley is so angry that everybody is falling out on her birthday that she accepts the Iconics challenge, and we're getting a tag title match at some point between those guys, I would imagine next week. This is a B. It's once again a nice little segment with Bayley and Banks that continues to build that dissension between them. Just little words that they use throughout this segment and little plays off one another they have that just slowly drip, 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 drips the dissension between the two. I like it. The Raw Women's Championship on the line. It's a rematch from Backlash between Nia Jax and Asuka. Starts off with Asuka pretty much immediately putting an armbar onto Nia Jax, and Nia Jax fighting out of it. They get into a scuffle on the apron that sees a rear choke from Asuka onto Nia Jax when she attempts a Samoan drop, manages to get out of that. And it seems like it's Asuka constantly pushing against Nia Jax, and it really starts to become all Nia Jax during the break. As Asuka, just before they go to break, goes for a baseball slide, and Nia Jax turns it into a powerbomb. Can't help but feel that. And I feel like we always dig on Nia Jax, but I thought like there was some miscommunication in the first part of this match where things just felt a bit clunky between the two. Again, like when they did the powerbomb outside the ring, like you see Asuka slide in and stop really soon, and Nia Jax is like a couple of feet away, so Nia Jax walks over and pulls her away. It looked clunky, basically. Asuka fights back, but Nia just keeps on pushing. Hits a Samoan drop onto Asuka, but Asuka's foot is under the ropes, so the ref doesn't count the pin. And Nia's furious with the ref, pushes him over, and the ref goes to DQ Nia Jax. And as Nia is pleading her innocence, Asuka quickly sneaks in with a roll-up onto Nia Jax, and the referee gives a fast 3 count. Clearly fed up of Nia Jax BS. Quick count, that's a fine for you, and Asuka retains the Women's Championship. Giving this a C+, it was good, it was alright, it was better than their match at Backlash, but there is just a disconnect between Asuka and Nia Jax. We saw it at Backlash, and we saw it again here tonight. Just a few occasions where they're out of step with one another, and I don't want to just put the blame solely on Nia Jax, because I feel like the wrestling world is dogpiling onto Nia Jax at the moment, but it does feel like there's just a disconnect here, and if they're going to go at it again at Extreme Rules, that needs to be addressed. It's main event o'clock now, and it's Randy Orton versus Christian in a non-sanctioned match. Before the announcements can be made of the competitors, Ric Flair makes his way out to try one more time to convince Christian to not compete in this match. Christian wants nothing to do with it. The bell sounds. Ric Flair, low blow onto Christian. What? But we love Ric Flair. What's he done that for? And then Ric Flair makes his way up the ramp. Can't quite tell whether he's smirking at Randy Orton or just generally flustered that Christian accepted the match. I can't quite tell, but either way, Christian is on the floor in a heap from the low blow, and Randy Orton hits a punt kick, and Christian is done. Just completely out cold. Randy Orton rolls him onto his back, covers him slowly. 1, 2, 3. Orton wins the match. And Orton is a combination of upset and angry with Christian. He's screaming into Christian's face. He's telling him, like, you know, you shouldn't be here. Why are you here? This wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't want to do this. We've got history. And the paramedics come in, and Orton lets the paramedics have room to get him. And as Raw goes off the air, it's just Randy Orton, like, just very, very visibly upset and angry with everything. Like, saying that Christian shouldn't have taken the match. He shouldn't have come here to defend Edge's honor, and it's ended this way, and it shouldn't shouldn't have ended this way. This didn't have to happen. And Randy Orton played a blinder here. Given the closing segment an A, I thought, okay, the match, there wasn't a match. It was a segment, it was a bit, but it was really well done. Randy Orton's character is so layered at the moment. There is so much depth to it. It's the idea of, this isn't just a guy who just wants to beat people up. Here's a guy like who just, and a former friend of his, he sent him home because it was in his best interest. And then somebody else from his past has come along to try and gain revenge. He's like, no, you don't understand. Now I have to do the same to you. And it's just, it's really great storytelling. When Orton is in the mood to storytell, he can storytell like no other. So I'm giving this an A. Raw this week gets a B from me. A lot of turning going on Raw this week. I counted at least 3, 4 if you count the referee on Nia Jax. A lot of twists as we come out of Backlash and head towards Extreme Rules. Whilst we will get what I feel like quite a lot of rematches from Backlash at Extreme Rules, I quite enjoy the direction that some of these are heading in. Here's to no more turns for at least 2 days. Stay safe. Love you, bye.